The days following the tech showcase transformed the halls of Riverside High in ways nobody could have predicted. The same corridors where Alex had once walked alone now felt different. Not just for him, but for everyone. The morning after the showcase, Alex arrived at school wearing the same clothes he'd always worn. This time, though, it was a choice, a statement. As he walked to his locker, students who had never spoken to him before stopped to say hello. Others just watched with newfound respect, perhaps questioning their own past judgments. Chris was the first of his former bullies to approach him. It happened during lunch period, in the same cafeteria where the grape soda incident had taken place. "Hey," Chris said, standing awkwardly by Alex's table. "Can I sit?" Alex nodded, continuing to work on his laptop, now known to everyone as the tool that had built his empire. "I've been thinking," Chris started, his usual confidence gone. "The things I said, the videos I posted. I was wrong, really wrong." He paused, struggling with the words. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Alex looked up from his screen. "You know what the interesting thing is?" he replied. "If you hadn't posted those videos, I might have revealed everything sooner. But watching them spread made me realize how many other kids probably face the same judgment. That's why I wanted to make the revelation count." The foundation Alex had announced at the showcase was already making waves. Local news stations ran stories about the teenager who went from being bullied for his clothes to becoming a tech millionaire. But what caught people's attention wasn't the money, it was what he chose to do with it. In Mr. Chen's store, now equipped with Alex's inventory system free of charge, a small group of students gathered after school. They weren't there to shop, they were there for the coding classes Alex had started. Mr. Chen had happily offered his back room as a teaching space. "Remember," Alex told his students, many of whom wore clothes as worn as his had been, "every great innovation starts with a problem that needs solving. Look around your own life. What could be improved? What needs fixing?" His mom had finally moved them to a better apartment, but they stayed in the same neighborhood. "This is our community," she'd said. "Let's make it better instead of leaving it behind." The pride in her eyes when she watched Alex teach his coding classes made all the hard times worth it. The school itself was changing too. The principal had worked with Alex to establish a technology scholarship program, ensuring that talented students wouldn't be held back by financial constraints. The first recipient was a quiet freshman who reminded Alex of himself, brilliant with computers but wearing second-hand clothes. One afternoon, Alex overheard a group of popular students talking about a new kid who'd arrived wearing obviously thrifted clothes. Instead of mockery, he'd heard something unexpected. "Did you see how quick she was with that math problem?" one said. "Bet she's got an amazing mind like Alex. We should invite her to sit with us at lunch." The grape soda video that had once circulated as a joke was now being shared for a different reason, as a reminder of how wrong first impressions could be. Students had started their own campaign, "Success Wears Many Clothes," sharing stories of achievement that came in unexpected packages. Chris, surprisingly, became one of the foundation's most active volunteers. "I want to make up for how I acted," he explained. "Plus, I realized I was jealous. You were building something amazing while I was just showing off things my parents bought me." At the quarterly school assembly, Alex stood again on the auditorium stage, but this time he wasn't alone. Next to him were 3 students from his coding class demonstrating the apps they'd developed to help local businesses. "This is what success really looks like," Alex told the audience. "It's not about the clothes you wear or the car you drive. It's about the impact you make, the lives you touch, the changes you create." His old jacket, the one that had starred in so many mocking posts, now hung framed in the school's main hall. Beneath it was a simple plaque. "Your clothes don't define your worth. Your mind and heart do." Finally, it was his turn. As Alex walked onto the stage, the auditorium fell completely silent. He plugged his laptop, the same one he'd been mocked for carrying, into the projector. "Many of you know me," he began, his voice steady and clear, "or at least you thought you did. You knew me as the kid with the worn-out clothes and the old laptop. What you didn't know was that, while you were busy judging my appearance, I was building something that would change the way major companies around the world operate." The presentation screen lit up with his code, his achievements, the implementations already transforming businesses across the globe. He explained complex concepts in simple terms, just as he'd practiced, watching understanding dawn on face after face. But this isn't just about me, he continued. This is about every kid who's ever been judged for what they wear, where they live, or what they own. Success doesn't come from what's in your closet, it comes from what's in your mind and your heart. As he spoke, he could see tears in his mom's eyes, pride on Mr. Chen's face. He'd closed the store to attend, and complete amazement on the faces of those who had once mocked him. The algorithm I developed isn't just making money, he explained. It's already being used to help small businesses like the one where I worked compete with bigger companies. And today, I'm announcing a foundation that will help other students from low-income backgrounds pursue their dreams in technology. The applause that followed was thunderous. As Alex looked out over the audience, he saw something changing in his classmates' eyes. It wasn't just respect, it was understanding. The same jacket they'd mocked had contained a mind worth millions, and none of them had seen past their own prejudices to notice. The afternoon sun was just beginning to cast long shadows across the school parking lot when the sleek black limousine pulled up to the front entrance. Students pressed against the windows, wondering which tech executive had arrived now. The crowd grew as the driver, wearing a crisp uniform, stepped out and opened the back door. Inside his classroom, Alex could hear the buzz of excitement building in the hallways. His phone vibrated, a text from his mom. "I'm here. Ready when you are." He smiled, took a deep breath, and gathered his things. As he walked toward his locker, the whispers and pointing started. Chris and his usual group were huddled near the water fountain, phones out, probably planning to record more mockery for their social media. Perfect timing. "Hey look, the thrift shop model's heading to the big tech event," Chris called out, his voice echoing in the hallway. "Going to ask for a job cleaning their computers?" Alex stopped, turned, and smiled. "Actually," he said calmly, "I'm one of the main speakers." The laughter that followed was immediate, but uncertain. Something in Alex's confidence made them hesitate. "Yeah, right," Chris scoffed. "In that jacket, they wouldn't let you in the door. Why don't you come and see for yourself?" Alex replied, walking toward the main entrance. To his satisfaction, Chris and his friends followed, still recording, expecting another chance to humiliate him. The crowd at the front doors parted as Alex approached. Through the glass, he could see the limousine waiting exactly where he'd arranged it. The driver stood at attention, ready for his cue. As Alex pushed open the door and stepped outside, phones came up everywhere recording. He could hear the murmurs of confusion, the questioning whispers. The driver spotted him and immediately opened the limo's back door with a respectful nod. "Sir," the driver said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear, "your mother is already in the auditorium. Would you like to change before your presentation?" The silence that fell over the crowd was deafening. Alex reached into the limo and pulled out the garment bag containing his blazer. He shrugged off his old jacket, the one that had been mocked in countless social media posts, and handed it to the driver, who folded it with the same respect he would show a designer coat. As Alex put on the blazer, he could see Chris's face in the crowd, phone still recording, mouth slightly open in shock. Other students were frantically typing on their phones, no doubt spreading the word about what they were singing. "Thank you," Alex said to the driver, then turned to address the stunned crowd. "The showcase starts in 20 minutes. Everyone's welcome to attend, even those who thought success only wore designer labels." He walked back into the school, heading toward the auditorium. Behind him, he could hear the rush of students following, their whispered conversations creating a wave of sound that filled the hallways. The auditorium was already half full when he entered through the side door. Tech executives in expensive suits mingled with teachers and invited guests. His mom sat in the front row, wearing a new dress they'd bought together, looking more relaxed and proud than he'd ever seen her. Mr. Parker, the principal, approached with an expression of complete amazement. "Alex, I had no idea, all this time." "I know," Alex smiled. "That was kind of the point." As students filled the remaining seats, Alex noticed Chris and his friends slipping in at the back. They weren't laughing anymore. Their phones were still out, but now they were frantically scrolling through their previous posts, probably trying to delete all their mocking videos. The showcase began with introductions from various tech companies. Each speaker praised the brilliant young innovator who had revolutionized their industry. Alex watched as his classmates' expressions changed from confusion to shock as they gradually realized who these executives were talking about. Almost, Alex replied, picking up his old backpack. Inside was his laptop containing the presentation that would change everything. Just one more thing to arrange. He made a final call to the car service he hired. Not just any car service, the most exclusive one in the city. "Everything's set for this afternoon," he confirmed. The response made him smile. Walking to school that morning felt different. The same streets, the same shops, the same people, but everything was about to change. Mr. Chen waved from his store, giving Alex a knowing thumbs up. He was one of the few people who knew what was coming. In his first period class, Alex heard students whispering about the fancy cars they'd seen pulling up to the school, tech executives arriving early to set up for the showcase. If only they knew the best was yet to come. Chris made his usual snide remarks when Alex walked past, but Alex noticed something new in his tone, a hint of uncertainty. The bullies could sense something was different, even if they didn't know what. As the morning wore on, the excitement in the school built to a fever pitch. TV news vans started arriving. Alex had made sure to alert the local media about the prestigious tech event. Every detail was falling into place exactly as he planned. During lunch, he sat at his usual isolated table one last time, checking his phone. The car service had confirmed they were ready. The catering he'd arranged for the post-showcase reception was on schedule. The tech executives were all in place, still unaware that their mysterious consultant was sitting in the cafeteria, eating a homemade sandwich. Looking around at his classmates, the ones who'd mocked him, ignored him, judged him, Alex felt no anger, just a calm certainty. In a few hours, everything they thought they knew about success, about worth, about judging books by their covers, was about to be turned upside down. He glanced down at his worn jacket and smiled. It had served its purpose well, this armor of humility. Soon it would become something else, a symbol, a reminder, a lesson. But for now, it was still just a jacket, and he was still just the poor kid in the cafeteria. For a few more hours anyway, the school hallways were buzzing with excitement about the upcoming technology showcase. Posters hung everywhere announcing the event, with logos of major tech companies splashed across them in bright colors. What nobody knew was that Alex had orchestrated every detail from his usual spot in the back of the cafeteria. "Did you hear?" He overheard a student saying, "Some big Silicon Valley people are coming. My dad says it's a huge deal." Chris walked past, deliberately bumping into Alex's shoulder. "Hey, maybe you can ask them for a job cleaning their offices," he sneered. His friends laughed, but Alex noticed it was less enthusiastic than usual. Even bullies get bored of their own jokes eventually. In the principal's office, Alex sat quietly as Mr. Parker, the principal, reviewed the final details for the showcase. "I still can't believe you arranged all this," Mr. Parker said, shaking his head in amazement. "The companies you've brought in, it's unprecedented." "I just want to inspire other students," Alex replied simply, adjusting his worn jacket. The principal glanced at his threadbare clothes with a mixture of concern and curiosity, but Alex had grown used to such looks. The preparation was intense. Every day after school, Alex would meet with the tech company representatives via video call, coordinating their presentations. They still didn't know he was a student. To them, he was just the brilliant young consultant who'd revolutionized their systems. "The auditorium setup needs to be perfect," one executive insisted during a call. "This algorithm is changing the entire industry. We need to make a big impression." Alex smiled to himself as he took notes. If only they knew they were talking to a kid in a second-hand sweater sitting in the back room of Mr. Chen's convenience store. At home, his mom was bursting with excitement but keeping their secret admirably. When neighbors asked about her quitting her extra jobs, she just said she was taking a break. The proud gleam in her eyes whenever she looked at Alex was enough to make his heart swell. One evening, while they were eating dinner, she asked, "Are you sure you want to do it this way? You could just buy new clothes now, show everyone gradually." Alex shook his head. "It's not about the clothes anymore, Mom. It's about showing people that success doesn't look like what they think it does. Maybe it'll help them think twice before judging someone next time." The night before the showcase, Alex couldn't sleep. He stood at his window, looking out at the city lights, thinking about how everything would change tomorrow. His phone buzzed. Another notification about that grape soda video. Someone had added a new mean comment. Perfect timing, he thought. Let them have one last laugh. In his closet, hanging in a garment bag borrowed from Mr. Chen, was the one new item he bought, a simple but well-made blazer. Not flashy, not designer, just dignified. He'd wear it tomorrow, but not until the right moment. His laptop hummed on his desk, displaying the presentation he'd prepared. The code that had changed everything, broken down into simple terms that even non-tech people could understand. He practiced his explanation countless times, making sure every word would count. Down the hall, he could hear his mom on the phone with his aunt, trying to contain her excitement about tomorrow. She'd taken extra care to press his current clothes for the morning, the same old outfit he'd been wearing all year. One last time, she'd said with a wink. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Alex got dressed slowly, deliberately choosing his most criticized outfit, the worn jeans, the faded shirt, the thin jacket that had starred in so many mocking social media posts. His mom watched from the doorway, tears in her eyes. "Ready?" she asked, as he lay in bed that night, listening to the familiar sounds of their neighborhood, distant sirens, the rumble of trains, the neighbor's dog barking. Alex thought about how different things would soon be. But it wasn't the money that made him smile. It was the thought of all the good he could do with it. His phone buzzed with another notification, someone else sharing that grape soda video with a mean comment. Alex just smiled and turned off his phone. Let them have their fun for now. Soon, very soon, they'd learn that appearances aren't everything, and that sometimes the biggest success stories come in the most unexpected packages. Before falling asleep, he looked at the old family photo on his nightstand, the one of him and his parents at the park, all smiling, taken before his dad got sick. "We did it, Dad," he whispered. "We really did it." The next morning, as Alex got ready for school, he deliberately chose to wear his most worn-out sweater, the same one that Chris and his friends loved to mock. But now, it wasn't just an old piece of clothing, it was armor, hiding a truth that would soon change everything. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, just as Alex was getting ready for school. His hands trembled slightly as he read it again and again, barely able to believe the words on his screen. The major tech company wasn't just buying his algorithm, they were paying him more money than he'd ever dreamed of seeing in his lifetime. 7 figures, he whispered to himself, sitting on the edge of his bed. The amount seemed almost unreal, like something from a movie rather than his actual life. Through his thin bedroom walls, he could hear his mom getting ready for her morning cleaning job, the familiar sound of her coffee cup clinking against the counter. "Mom," he called out, his voice cracking with excitement. "Mom, come here quick." She rushed in, still in her work uniform, worry creasing her forehead. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Alex turned his laptop toward her, watching as her eyes scanned the email. The moment she understood what she was reading, her hand flew to her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, baby, you did it." They hugged each other tightly, both crying and laughing at the same time. His mom kept saying, "Your father would be so proud," over and over again. But when she started talking about buying new clothes and moving to a better neighborhood right away, Alex surprised her. "Not yet, Mom," he said firmly. "I have a better idea." He explained his plan to her, how he wanted to handle this success in a way that would make a real difference. "First thing though," he said, looking at her work uniform, "you're going to call in and quit those extra jobs, right now." His mom started to protest, years of financial struggle making her hesitant to let go of steady work. But Alex was insistent. "Trust me, Mom. We're going to be okay." That morning, for the first time in years, his mom didn't leave for work. Instead, they sat together at their small kitchen table, planning their future over a proper breakfast. Alex had never seen her look so relaxed, the constant worry lines on her forehead finally starting to fade. At school, nothing looked different on the surface. Alex wore the same worn clothes, carried the same old backpack, and sat at the same lonely lunch table. Chris and his friends were still sharing that grape soda video, but now their jokes felt even more meaningless. During lunch break, while everyone else was showing off their latest purchases, Alex was quietly making moves that would change everything. He sent emails to several local charitable foundations, setting up meetings to discuss his ideas for helping underprivileged students interested in technology. He wanted his success to mean something more than just money in the bank. After school, instead of heading to his usual shift at Mr. Chen's store, Alex went to meet with a financial advisor, one of the best in the city. The advisor did a double take when Alex walked in wearing his shabby clothes, but his skepticism vanished as soon as Alex started talking numbers. "You've got a good head on your shoulders, kid," the advisor said at the end of their meeting. "Most people who come into sudden money want to spend it all right away. But your plans for investment and charitable giving, that's impressive." That evening, Alex and his mom had their first real dinner out in years. Nothing too fancy, just a small family restaurant they'd always walked past but could never afford. As they ate, they talked about all the things they could do now, not just for themselves, but for others too. "You know," his mom said, wiping happy tears from her eyes, "your father always said you were going to do something amazing one day. He saw something special in you, even when you were tiny." Alex smiled, remembering his dad's encouragement when he first showed interest in computers. "I wish he could see this," he said softly. "Oh, he sees it," his mom replied, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "He sees all of it." Back home, Alex spent the evening setting the next phase of his plan in motion. He contacted the school administration about hosting a special event, a technology and innovation showcase. They seemed skeptical at first, but the mention of major tech companies being involved quickly changed their tune. During lunch, while everyone else gossiped and showed off their latest purchases, Alex was quietly finalizing deals worth more than all their designer clothes combined. His laptop, beaten up on the outside but powerful within, was like a perfect metaphor for his life at that moment. Mr. Chen noticed the change in him first. "You seem different," he said one evening at the store. "More peaceful." Alex just smiled as he stocked the shelves. "I just realized something important," he replied. "Sometimes the biggest victories are the ones nobody sees coming." As he walked home that night, past the familiar shops closing up for the day and the neighbors he'd known all his life, Alex felt a deep sense of satisfaction. His algorithm was set to revolutionize how companies handled their supply chains, but that wasn't what made him proudest. It was knowing that soon he'd be able to help other kids like him, kids with big dreams but empty pockets. The secret of his success weighed less heavily now that his mom knew. Together, they were planning something that would shock everyone at school. But for now, Alex was content to keep quietly building his empire, one line of code at a time, while the world around him remained unaware of the amazing things happening behind that worn-out jacket and second-hand shoes. While the grape soda incident video continued making rounds at school, something much bigger was happening in Alex's life after hours. Sitting in his small bedroom, surrounded by the soft glow of his laptop screen and the distant sound of sirens from the city streets below, he was building an empire that nobody at school could even imagine. The idea had started simple enough. Working at Mr. Chen's store, Alex had noticed how often they ran out of popular items while others sat gathering dust on the shelves. One quiet evening, between helping occasional customers, he'd written a basic program to track inventory patterns. Mr. Chen had been amazed at how well it worked. Suddenly, they were never out of the most needed items, and nothing went to waste. But Alex hadn't stopped there. He'd refined the program, made it smarter, more adaptable. What started as a simple inventory tracker had evolved into something that could predict patterns and optimize supply chains in ways that even big companies hadn't figured out yet. He'd posted about it anonymously on tech forums, and that's when things really took off. "This is incredible," read the latest email from Silicon Valley. "We've never seen anything like this before. The way your algorithm adapts to real-time data changes. It's revolutionary." Alex smiled as he typed his response, using his mom's name on all the official documents. They assumed they were dealing with an experienced professional, not a high school student who could barely afford new shoes. The irony wasn't lost on him. Late at night, after finishing his homework and his shift at the store, he would join video calls with tech executives from around the world. He'd set up his laptop carefully, making sure his worn-out bedroom walls weren't visible in the background, speaking with a confidence that made them forget to ask about his age or background. "The test results are beyond our expectations," one CEO had told him just yesterday. "How soon can we implement this across our entire network?" The numbers they were throwing around made Alex's head spin. 6 figures had turned into 7. His mom's bank account, which he'd been authorized to use for the business side of things, now had more money in it than she'd earned in the last 10 years combined. But he kept quiet about all of it. At school, he was still just the kid in the old clothes who sat alone at lunch. He still worked his shifts at Mr. Chen's store, still helped his mom with the grocery shopping at the discount market, still counted every penny of his regular expenses. One evening, while helping his mom sort coupons at their small kitchen table, he almost told her everything. She looked so tired after her 3 jobs, her hands slightly shaking as she cut out the discount for laundry detergent. "Mom," he started, then paused. "I need to tell you something." She looked up, concern immediately crossing her face. "What is it, honey? Is everything okay at school?" Alex took a deep breath. "I've been working on something big." As he explained everything, the algorithm, the companies, the money, his mom's eyes grew wider and wider. When he finished, she sat in silence for a long moment. Then, tears started rolling down her cheeks. "Your father would be so proud," she whispered, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "But why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I wanted to make sure it was real," Alex replied. "And I wanted to do something special with it. Something that would help others like us." That night, they stayed up late, making plans. His mom would quit her extra jobs. Alex insisted on that. They could afford a better apartment now, but both agreed to wait. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about showing the world that success comes in all forms. At school the next day, Alex sat through his classes as usual, wearing the same old clothes, carrying the same worn backpack. Chris and his friends were still sharing the grape soda video, adding cruel comments and jokes. But their words felt different now, hollow, meaningless. The rest of the day passed in a blur of whispers and pointed fingers. The video of the cafeteria incident had spread quickly, with people adding their own cruel comments and jokes. But something had changed inside Alex. The weight of keeping his success secret, of enduring their taunts in silence, was becoming too heavy. That evening, while working his shift at Mr. Chen's store, Alex made a decision. He'd been planning to wait, to keep everything quiet until the deal was fully finalized. But watching those videos circulate, seeing how quick people were to judge based on appearances, he realized this was about more than just him now. He spent his break time on the store's back steps, making calls and sending emails. His mom had always taught him that timing was everything, and now it was time to show everyone at school that their assumptions about him had been wrong all along. As he walked home that night, the cold didn't seem to bite quite as hard. His thin jacket might not have been much protection against the winter wind, but his determination burned hot enough to keep him warm. Soon, very soon, he would show them all that success doesn't wear designer labels. His phone buzzed with another notification, someone else sharing the cafeteria video with a mean caption. Alex just smiled and opened his coding software. Let them laugh now. In a few days, that same grape soda-stained jacket would become a symbol of something much bigger than they could imagine. Back in his room, surrounded by the gentle hum of his laptop and the distant sound of city traffic, Alex worked late into the night. Not on homework this time, but on finalizing the details of a plan that would change everything. Sometimes, he thought, you have to hit rock bottom before you can rise up stronger than ever. Winter arrived early that year, bringing bitter winds and freezing temperatures that cut through Alex's thin jacket like knives. The morning walk to school had become a test of endurance, his hands stuffed deep in his pockets, shoulders hunched against the cold. His mom had offered to buy him a new coat, but he'd seen her counting pennies for groceries last night. He couldn't bear the thought of her working an extra shift just for that. The school hallways were a stark contrast to the cold outside, warm and buzzing with activity. Students showed off their new winter wardrobes, comparing designer jackets and expensive boots. Alex slipped past them quickly, heading to his locker, his threadbare jacket feeling more conspicuous than ever. "Yo, check this out." Chris's voice rang out across the crowded hallway. My man here's still rocking his grandpa's hand-me-downs. The laughter that followed was immediate and cruel. Alex kept his head down, focusing on getting his books for first period, but Chris wasn't done. "Seriously, bro, did you get that jacket from a dumpster? Because I'm pretty sure I saw something just like it in the trash behind Goodwill." More laughter echoed through the hallway. A small crowd had gathered now, phones out, recording the scene. Alex's hands trembled slightly as he arranged his books, but not from fear, from anger. The same hands that had spent countless hours coding complex algorithms, the same mind they mocked had just received an email that morning about a potential six-figure deal. If they only knew. But it was what happened in the cafeteria that really changed everything. Alex was at his usual corner table, reviewing some code while eating his lunch, when he felt something cold splash across his back. Someone had accidentally spilled their drink on him. Oops, my bad. Chris's fake apology was met with snickers from his friends. But hey, maybe that'll help wash that jacket. When was the last time it saw soap? Alex stood up slowly, his laptop thankfully spared from the spill. The cafeteria had gone quiet, all eyes on the scene unfolding. His white t-shirt was now soaked through with purple grape soda, clinging coldly to his back. You know what's funny? Alex finally spoke, his voice steady despite his racing heart. While you're busy worrying about what I'm wearing, I'm busy building something that could change the world. But I guess it's easier to tear people down than to build yourself up, right? The cafeteria remained silent. It was the first time Alex had ever responded to their taunts. Even Chris seemed momentarily thrown off balance. Oh yeah, Chris recovered quickly. What are you building? A better way to shop at thrift stores? More laughter, but it seemed less certain this time. Alex just smiled, grabbed his things, and walked out of the cafeteria with his head held high. Behind him, he could hear the buzz of conversations starting up again, phones sharing the video that would soon circulate through all the school's social media groups. In the bathroom, as he tried to clean his shirt with paper towels, Alex checked his email one more time. The tech company's latest message was still there, asking for a video conference to discuss implementing his algorithm. They were offering more money than Chris's dad probably made in a month. Through online forums and anonymous profiles, he'd already caught the attention of several tech companies. They didn't know they were talking to a high school student. They just knew his code worked in ways others couldn't match. His username, LogicMaster, was starting to gain recognition in programming circles, and he was close to finalizing his first major deal. The bell rang, snapping him back to reality. As he packed up his laptop, he overheard a group of girls nearby talking about the upcoming school dance, comparing designer dresses that cost more than his mom made in a month. One of them caught him looking and whispered something to her friends, causing them to burst into laughter. Alex straightened his shoulders and walked to his next class. Let them laugh, he thought. They didn't know that every mockery, every snide comment, every whispered joke just added fuel to his determination. He wasn't just working for a better future for himself and his mom anymore. He was working to show everyone in this school that what you wear doesn't define who you are or what you can achieve. As the afternoon sun streamed through the classroom windows, Alex focused on his textbook while discreetly checking an email from a major tech company interested in his algorithm. Soon, very soon, everything would change. But for now, he just had to keep his head down, keep working, and keep believing in himself. After all, the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting ahead. The morning sun hadn't even risen when Alex woke up to the sound of his mom quietly getting ready for her first job of the day. He could hear her trying not to make noise in their small apartment's kitchen, probably making herself a quick cup of coffee before heading out to clean offices. The smell of coffee drifted under his door, mixing with the crisp autumn air coming through his slightly cracked window. Alex sat up in his bed, running his hands through his curly hair as he looked at the pile of textbooks on his desk. He'd been up until 2 a.m. studying for his advanced calculus test, but that wasn't what was making his stomach twist into knots. It was the thought of walking through those school hallways again, past all those designer clothes and expensive sneakers, wearing the same 3 shirts he'd been rotating through since last year. "You up already, honey?" his mom called softly from the kitchen. She poked her head into his room, her work uniform already on, but her eyes still bright despite the early hour. "You should sleep more. Those late-night study sessions aren't good for you." "Can't sleep," Alex replied, forcing a smile. "Got that big test today." He didn't mention the real reason. The group of kids who'd been getting worse with their comments lately. His mom had enough to worry about. The apartment was small but clean, with faded family photos covering one wall, memories of better times before his dad had passed away 3 years ago. Since then, it had just been the two of them, his mum working herself to the bone while he did everything he could to keep his grades perfect. His scholarship to this prestigious school was their ticket to a better future, even if some days it felt like torture. Alex got ready quickly, pulling on his most presentable shirt, the blue one with only a tiny tear near the bottom that he could tuck in. His jeans were worn at the knees, but at least they were clean. The mirror showed what he already knew. A tall, thin teenager with determined eyes, wearing clothes that screamed thrift store to his wealthy classmates. Before leaving, he grabbed his prized possession, his laptop. It looked beat up on the outside, but he'd upgraded its insides himself, saving up from his secret evening job at Mr. Chen's convenience store. What none of his classmates knew was that this laptop wasn't just for schoolwork. Late at night, while they were posting about their latest shopping sprees, he was teaching himself coding and working on something that could change everything. The walk to school was his thinking time. The neighborhood was just waking up, Mr. Rodriguez opening his small grocery store, Mrs. Kin watering the flowers outside her dry cleaning shop, and the usual morning crowd waiting for their buses to work. These people were his real community, the ones who smiled and waved, who didn't care what brand his shoes were. As he approached Riverside High, the scenery changed dramatically. Expensive cars pulled up to the drop-off zone, driven by parents in business suits or chauffeurs in uniforms. A group of students gathered near the entrance, showing off their latest purchases, a new iPhone here, designer sneakers there. Alex took a deep breath and gripped his backpack straps a little tighter. He made it halfway to his locker before the first comment hit. "Hey, look who's wearing his Sunday best again." The voice belonged to Chris, whose dad owned half the car dealerships in town. A few snickers followed, but Alex kept walking, his eyes fixed ahead. He'd learned that looking at them only made it worse. The morning classes were his sanctuary. In advanced calculus, it didn't matter what you wore. What mattered was your ability to solve complex equations. Alex lost himself in the numbers, in the elegant dance of variables and functions. When he solved problems on the board, even Chris and his friends fell silent, but they always made up for it later. Lunchtime was the worst. The cafeteria was like a fashion show runway, with everyone displaying their status through designer bags and trendy clothes. Alex sat alone at his usual corner table, pulling out the lunch he packed himself, a simple sandwich and an apple. He opened his laptop, using the time to check on his secret project. What nobody in the cafeteria knew was that their classmate in the worn-out clothes was actually on the verge of something huge. Between bites of his sandwich, Alex reviewed lines of code that could revolutionize how companies handled their logistics. He'd stumbled onto the idea while helping Mr. Chen optimize his store's inventory system, and it had grown into something much bigger.